Today, I am joined by the amazingly talented Val Chmerkovskiy. Val is a dancer who has many dance accomplishments, including 2 Dancing with the Stars Mirrorballs. Do I have your permission to post this episode of The Inspiration Show on social media? If so, may I proceed?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. So, what inspired you to become a dancer?
What inspired me to become a dancer? I don't know if anything really inspired me to be a dancer as much as I was motivated by the fact that I had an older brother that was going to dance, and I kind of tagged along. And I had no real plans to pursue it. I never really even had a huge passion for it. I was just a really enthusiastic, charming, I guess, fairly talented young kid that that had really great parents. I think that is where 99% of my fortune came from, is the fact that I had 2 young parents that were really, really driven to provide as much as they could for their kid. And they did. And I'm sure they made a bunch of mistakes along the way, but one of the things that a mistake that definitely paid off was signing up their boys for dance class, and that's it. And then just I wouldn't say I had stage parents at all, but I did have very supportive, very active. They didn't push us to do something we didn't enjoy, but they definitely held us accountable for to be our best at everything that we did. And dance was one of those things. And again, I never felt kind of this pressure from my parents to if you're not winning, you're disappointing me, ever. But there was no disappointment. They never made me feel like they were disappointed. What they made me feel was responsible for the actions that I took. And if I showed up to class, if I showed up to competitions, if I showed up to practice for a competition, well, I had to be accountable. I had 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the time was, and I had to be my best. And that's something they instilled in me from a very young age.
Yep, once you make a commitment, you gotta commit and you gotta
Yeah.
work hard.
See it through, regardless of what the result is. Yes, if you're consistently making mistakes, and you realize this isn't for you, learn how to abandon that activity. But I think there's also something really important about sticking with it, and sticking it with it through the difficult times. It's not always gonna be fun. It just depends on how you define fun. For me, sweating my face off and being incredibly sore was a lot of fun, because that meant that I'm putting my body through something that's making it grow and making it get better. That was a lot of fun. Studying for a test certainly wasn't fun, but having information that I didn't have 3 hours prior to that studying session, that was fun. Being empowered is fun with intelligence. And so I was talking to somebody about it, but like, I was lucky that I had I had I guess, an environment that facilitated this hard work, which I put in. And then the luck came when that hard work paid off, and I was able to see the results of that hard work. And almost immediately, that created this formula at a young age that I kind of believed in for the rest of my life. Rightfully, wrongfully, is it true? Is it real? Is it, I don't know. But the formula of like, yo, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna work really hard, but then it'll pay off. It'll always pay off. Now, it doesn't always pay off as a win, but it'll pay off in some way or another. You will feel empowered. You will feel happy. You will feel accomplished. And I felt that very early on in dance and in other things. And that was my biggest, I guess, victory, is that early on, I was like convinced that listen, this is the hard, the hard part is temporary. The fun part is forever. It's, I think it was Muhammad Ali who said, I'd rather, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, I'd rather struggle in practice, or in practice, and kind of live the rest of my life as a champion, than give up at practice or not put in the work, and then live my life in regret. So that's one of the things that I kind of really followed.
Yep, that's an amazing feeling, to work super hard and then to watch all your hard work pay off in the end.
Yeah. And again, it pays off in many different ways. Like for me, this has paid off. This is my hard work paying off. You, a young woman that's going to be incredibly successful, looking up to me for whatever reason, that for me is a huge accomplishment. I always wanted to be in this position. Do I, now that I'm in this position, do I feel like I belong in this position? Not always, but I definitely treat it with a lot of gratitude. So I certainly I'm grateful that you chose to speak with me, and you choose to listen to me beyond just speaking with me. But like I said, there's no crazy science behind it. It's just stay with it. Whatever it is that you want to do, just stick with it, and it will pay off, like I said, in some way or another.
It's such an honor to have you on the show, because I've looked up to you for so long, and you've inspired me in so many ways. So to get to talk to you is truly an honor.
Thank you.
So as a child born in the 80s, what dance styles influenced you the most? And if you could select a dance style to best represent you, what style would it be and why?
That's a great question. Growing up in the 80s, I would say I grew up in the 90s. Thanks for aging me.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm joking. I was born in the 80s, but I would say I grew up in the 90s, and I spent 8 years of my life in Odessa, Ukraine. There are definitely things that I can recollect that made an impact on me. But at that time, I would say mostly the impact was made by music. I played violin as well. I started playing violin when I was 5. And music was really something that influenced me. The city had a lot of jazz influence, a lot of comedy, a lot of flavor, just in terms of just people and artists. I say my city was known as the New Orleans of the Soviet Union, meaning that it had very similar kind of vibes and live music and just that kind of like melting pot city, right? So it wasn't strictly Ukrainian. It was a lot of influence, a lot of French architecture, a lot of, it was on the coast of the Black Sea. So there was a lot of immigration, a lot of import, export. So not just goods, but also culture. So I was surrounded by that. And I would say that even subconsciously made an impact on me. But then I moved to Brooklyn, New York in 1994. And that's really where I would say I grew up. I grew up in Brooklyn and then New York City, North Jersey, but in kind of like the tri-state New York City area. And which dance styles, to me, again, music. I dance because I love music, and I think people forget that. I love music first, and then the movement is just an opportunity for me to express that passion for music. And I'm lucky that I have this vehicle to express that passion, and also tell stories. I love to tell stories. So again, it's not the fact that I love the movement as much as I love the movement to the music that I love listening to. So when I tell you the styles that influenced me the most, I would say what musical styles influenced me the most at that time. Personally, hip hop of New York City, New York area hip hop really influenced me, and the stories that were being told in those songs. And as far as dance, Latin music was a big influence to me. I got a chance to, you know, be exposed to amazing Latin artists. One in particular, Celia Cruz. A lot of salsa dancing, a lot of, you know, cha-cha, samba, rumba. These again Latin style music and movement really influenced me into dance. Like I would not be dancing if, you know, if I was listening to traditional Ukrainian folk music. You know, that wasn't what got me into dance. I knew that there was traditional Ukrainian folk dancing, but that wasn't what gravitated me to dance. It was the sounds of hip hop, the sound, the Latin culture, and it was like, man, how fortunate was I to be able to immigrate to America, because then I wasn't just listening to that music, I was engulfed in that culture, in that melting pot, diverse culture. And so, yeah, this Russian kid basically, you know, grew up listening to Black and brown music, and really that inspired a lot of my flavor, my enthusiasm for this, and you know, ultimately a part of my personality.
Yeah, because I think music and dance go hand to hand, because music tells a story through words, and when you dance, you tell a story with your body. So those two stories come together and create one, which is just lovely to watch.
Yeah, thank you.
So as your partner's dancing coach over the past 10 years on Dancing with the Stars, you have shaped and elevated individuals to be great dancers. You have taught them so much, but over the years, what is one lesson you have learned from any of your partners?
Oh man. Well, there was one partner in particular. She, you know, again, I didn't grow up in this country at that age, so I wasn't familiar with Dr. Seuss. That's not an excuse. You know, whether you grow up in this country or not. But so she introduced me to a quote. You know, don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened.
Yep.
That was Nancy McKeon, and you know, and we actually got eliminated week 2 that season. So it was, you know, it was sad that we went early, but you know, she introduced me to that phrase, and that kind of stuck with me. So that's something that I learned, you know, that sometimes the journey is long-lived, short-lived. You know, I think you should approach every single day with kind of this mentality of, you know, a positive mentality, but also this sense of, again, I love the word accountability, but like really hold yourself accountable to squeeze every ounce of the day that you can, you know, whether it's, you know, and you're going to have off days, and that's okay too, but at least have the intention to be present, to be grateful, but you know, and reflect that gratitude and effort, you know, just you know, you don't know how long this will last. And I think you know, again, back to that question about the last 2 years, I think this was before we turned the cameras on, but we talked about the last 2 years and what it was like going through this time. I think, yeah, we kind of came out on the other side with a sense of gratitude for the things that we have, and at least me in particular. So, you know, one of the lessons that I think all of my partners collectively have taught me was that, you know, this time is fleeting. You know, these opportunities come and go, and you got to really seize every single day, every opportunity, like it's your last, and really give it your all.
Yep, you want to take out every moment from the experience. And on your experience of Dancing with the Stars, can you share with us some of your favorite memories?
Some of my favorite memories were seeing my brother win for the first time. Was definitely just, you know, gave me chills just now. Just because, again, he, you know, I say I'm my brother's keeper. He's my keeper, you know. We're a very tight family. Sorry, there's this beautiful light coming in, but I don't know if, here you go. but yeah, seeing my brother win was a huge moment for me, because he was, he kind of paved the way in so many ways for a lot of the opportunities that I had in my life that I then took and with my own effort elevated that. But I had to always be grateful for those opportunities, and just to see him do the show for so many years and become the star that he became, but also, and work so hard, but never see it through, never have felt what it's like to be validated with a trophy. It really meant a lot to me to see him win. So that was really cool. Another great moment was, it was a devastating moment, but losing with Zendaya, the season with Zendaya, was a really, when I look back in my journey on Dancing with the Stars, that's a moment that was really powerful, really important. And it's funny because it was a losing moment, but it was, in the long run, was a really strong bonding moment for her and I as friends outside of the show. And then also was a huge learning moment for me as a choreographer, as a teacher, as a competitor. It was, and I say that all the time, it's not the winning moments that teach you the most. Sometimes it's the losing moments that teach you the most, that hopefully, if they don't break you, they will empower you to be the best version of yourself moving forward. They will teach you, they will give you tools. So yeah, there's no such things as, you don't lose, you learn, right? The L is for learning, for lesson.
I love that.
But I've had my share of L's throughout my life. I would say that was awesome. And then honestly, our freestyle with Lori Hernandez, now that I look back on it, it was, it ended up being the winning routine for us, and we won that season. And it was the second time I won, but that routine was just so much fun to put together, so much fun to perform. And that whole season was stressful, but also was just so rewarding. I just like, being able to work with a young woman that was so talented, but also was, at this stage in her life where she didn't know what her future would look like. Being able to give her a chance to prove herself in another way, and then seeing it through. It was just a really great relationship her and I had. I got a really, like I said, I have an older brother that did a lot of great things for me, and my entire life, I wished I had a younger sibling that I could, forward those lessons to. And I unfortunately, I never got a chance to have a younger sibling, but through a lot of my students, through a lot of my partnerships, I get to forward that wisdom and forward that gratitude. And Lori Hernandez that season was one of those cases.
It's amazing. So going from dancer to author, you wrote a memoir that was released in March 2018 titled
Yep.
Never Change My Name. Did you ever touch on the thought of changing your name?
I never aspired to land in Hollywood in any capacity. I never had those plans. But once I did, once I made my pilgrimage to the West Coast, I realized there's a lot of people that, that make a lot of changes in who they are in order to attain a sort of success in this town. A lot of that has to do with appealing to others, and kind of changing themselves for the sake of gaining popularity, because they then become a little bit more appealing to a majority. And I quickly realized that I do not represent the majority at all, at least not in the way I sound, in the way I even look sometimes, and definitely not with the name that I bear, right? Val Chmerkovskiy is definitely not an all-American sounding name, but I, again, I'm a very proud individual. I try to earn that pride, and that pride doesn't come from ego. It comes from, I guess, respect for my family, for myself. And, one of the things that I looked at, one of the things that I saw was around me, like when I found out that some people like even like Brad Pitt, his name is, that's not even his name. His name is, Bradley Pittman. I mean, it's close, but Pittman maybe didn't sound as appealing as Brad Pitt. And that's just one small example, right? There's a lot of folks in this town that, again, that change their names to make it a little bit more, like I said, more relatable or more, sound cooler. To me, Chmerkovskiy is just, there's nothing attractive about saying that out loud more than even once. But again, I this is something that was a part of who I was, and I didn't want to, the idea of the idea of that title, I'll never change my name. It came from the fact that when I joined Dancing with the Stars, I had lived in this country for, let's see, already, I think close to 20 years. I was a US citizen, proud US citizen. I was someone that accomplished some incredible feats on behalf of this country as an American. Very proud of that. I became actually the first American to ever win a junior world championships in 2001. First American to win a youth world championships after that. All of those things mattered so much to me. Being an immigrant, proving myself, and again, almost like this sense of gratitude. I felt like, this country opened its doors to me. I needed to, kind of say thank you somehow by contributing to this country, and that was my contribution. Again, that's my only vehicle at that time. Anyway, the point is that when I joined the show, I already had all those things in my heart, but majority of this country had never heard of me or known anything about ballroom dancing, to be honest, or my contribution or my pride or any of whatever I had in my heart. So they were introduced to this kid with this crazy name and a weird accent, and I was the Russian kid immediately, where I actually was a really proud American kid. Yes, I had Russian heritage, Russian culture, and but I was Russian American. Whereas, some of my peers growing up competing in this world were also on Dancing with the Stars, and they were American kids. They had American last names, but while they were competing for other countries, actually, for England and for other countries. But as far as America was concerned, because their names were so American, and their accents were so, American, they were the American kids and I was the Russian kid, and so for me, that was a moment of like, it was kind of hurtful at first, but then I'm not going to hold it against people. I realized, there was this irony that, just because I had an accent or just because, I had this funky last name, I somehow wasn't American enough, and so that's where that idea came from, is that I'll just continue to love this country the way I do. I'll just continue to be who I am, and I'll never change my name. I won't need to change my name just to, again, to make others feel like, okay, now we can accept them as this or as that. I didn't really need anybody's acceptance except for my own and my family, my little unit. And honestly, I think that's one advice I'd give, is like, find your tribe. Find your exclusive unit of people. And for me, again, I was lucky that it was my family. For some, unfortunately, it isn't family. It could be other people in their life. but you got to find your village of people that are going to love you unconditionally, support you unconditionally, and they'll be your support system when you need it, because then you're not going to be you're not going to rely so much on the approval of the world, because you'll never get it, and you'll always be left disappointed. So I always tapped into the people that I love, that love me unconditionally. And, for those people, I was never going to change my name. I wasn't going to change who, and again, even changing that name, it was more metaphoric for just changing who I am. There was you will change. I see you, and I believe you're 13 years old, right?
Yes.
And you sound so articulate and so well spoken, and so you're on it. I mean, the fact that you got this interview, it shows how committed you are, and how accountable you are. But you will change throughout your life. But I promise you, this essence that you have already right now at 13 will be the same 20 years from now. You'll look and you'll be like, oh my gosh, how am I 33 already? Where did the time go? But some of your perspectives will shift, but your core will not. And so that's how I felt. This is who I was. This is how I spoke and preached since I was 12, honestly. And so along the way, there was a roller coaster of highs and lows, and moments where I could have switched up and become somebody else, and I didn't. And I'm very lucky for that, because even though maybe I would have found maybe more success in some regard or less success, I am so fulfilled where I'm at, because I never switched up. I never changed my name. I never changed who I was at the core. And, at the end of the day, I think that goes a long way, regardless of the accomplishments. My biggest accomplishment is that, I have friendships that have lasted for over 25 years. My best friend is someone I know since I was 8. My other best friend is, again, another 25-year friendship. So, it's the people that I value in my life more than the things that I have. And part of that is staying true to who you are.
Definitely. And I know Chmerkovskiy, it means so much to you, hearing from everything that you just said, and it represents so much. It represents you, your family, and your heritage. So I think it's wonderful. Yeah. You didn't change your name, and you stayed in touch with who you are. And like Bruno Mars says in his song, you're amazing just the way you are.
Yeah. And, again, I look, I'm definitely not perfect, and being amazing just the way you are is important to know. But also improving yourself every day is also important to know, and becoming a better version of who you were yesterday is also important to know. So it's a combination of both of those philosophies: being proud of who you are, but also not being stuck in who you are, and constantly wanting to improve who you are. How do you find that balance? I struggle with that, with that logic sometimes, because especially right now, there's so much of that rhetoric of like, I don't care. I'm just gonna be who I am. I don't even care about. No. You like like you should care. We should make caring cool. It's not cool to not care. And so I think it's a balance, but you should also not hyper care about what other people think of you all the time, or trying to appeal to other people. I think it's, and that's why I said I feel for this generation, because you guys are constantly being, we all are now. I'm part of this generation, but we're all on social media, and we're all being compared, and we're all being scrutinized constantly. But you gotta every day tap into who you are, and then try to improve that individual for yourself. And then in the process, you'll see the world shift around you, and become a better place for you.
I definitely agree with that. And what inspired you to write this book and share your story with the world?
What inspired me was at the time I had so much to say. I had so many stories I wanted to share about my family that, it was a privilege to get the opportunity to write a book and publish it, So I was able to be in a position where, a renowned publishing house was like interested in who I was and gave me a chance to put it, in writing. And like I said, for me, that was yet again, a huge accomplishment, for myself, for my family. I'm first in my family to ever be a published author, national bestseller. I like I said, I represent myself, but I also represent my family, and I want to do a good job in doing so.
My parents always tell me that as well. When you represent yourself, but you also represent your family and everything that your family stands for.
Yeah, I look, I'm a reflection of the work that my parents did, and hopefully one day I will have a kid that is, that is going to be doing things in life, doing some good in this world, and then I will take that credit, because he's going to reflect the things that I've hopefully instilled in him or her. But me, I can't be sitting here taking all the credit. I represent a lot of work, a lot of sacrifices that my parents made, and I want to do a good job representing them.
You are doing an amazing job from what. So the subtitle of the book is An Immigrant's American Dream from Ukraine to the USA to Dancing with the Stars. What dreams did your younger self having, knowing you were immigrating to the USA?
I've exceeded all of my dreams already a long time ago, and it's a challenge now, because now I have to dream something else. I have to dream bigger and bigger. But I've been very fortunate to accomplish a lot of those dreams. I'll be honest, when we were immigrating, I really didn't have a choice. It's not like I was like, hey guys, no, I'm staying right here. So I didn't have this kind of, oh man, we're moving to America. I can't wait to do this and that. We moved to America, not on vacation. It was, it wasn't an easy journey. We didn't come to, Fifth Ave or Upper East Side or, or Beverly Hills. We moved to, to the projects in Brooklyn, New York. And so, there was a lot of, it wasn't the America that they showed on TV. There was a lot of work that had to go into it, but I'm really grateful for that, because my parents were able to set an example of what it's like to work hard. And then in the process, I saw a neighborhood that, was lower class, middle class, and that also taught me a lot. I got a chance to make a very eclectic group of friends, a very diverse group of friends. And again, it just kept me grounded, kept me dreaming, but it kept me grounded. And again, I can't say that I've ever dreamed of anything that I'm living right now. I had none of these dreams. I couldn't dream that far, honestly. My dream was to graduate high school, get a job, and be able to pay my bills. And now I'm doing what I love. I get to share it with so many people. I get to teach, I get to influence and inspire. But yeah, I think I don't think I had any dreams particular to America. I just had a dream for myself as a young man. I wanted to grow up to be a person of influence, whether it's influencing culture or influencing communities. I just wanted to be a person of influence, and what does that come with? That comes with a great responsibility, and I wanted that responsibility because I wanted to have an opportunity to influence somebody in a positive way. So I'm living that, because even that comes in degrees, right? You could be the president of the United States influence, or you could be, a teacher at your local middle school. And that could be even bigger influence. You know, sometimes I think about, you know, I always looked at the people that are in leadership positions, you know, like our government officials as kind of the most brilliant people in our society. And I grew up to realize that that isn't always the case. A lot of them are, but a lot of the more brilliant people in our society are the ones that are not being as celebrated as much, you know, and those are our teachers, right? The teachers that are raising the next generation of leaders in our society. Those are really the people that are really, really important. And so I am a teacher as well, and I love that role, and it's a tough one, but sometimes, you know, sometimes it's very tough, but it's one that I love, and you know, I'm very grateful for. So that was really a dream that I could remember, is being someone of authority, of influence, so that I can then use that authority and that influence to make a positive change in the world.
And that's exactly what you're doing. You've influenced so many, you've inspired so many. So just to be talking to you about you and everything amazing you've done has just been an amazing honor. So what was your experience like while writing your book? And while writing the book, did you learn any important lessons?
Yes. So the experience of writing the book was tough because you go through a roller coaster of like doubt, excitement, you know, and doubt, and then excitement and doubt. And the doubt is always because, like, you know, and still I go through that, is like, well, who cares? Like, is anybody even gonna read this? And if they do read it, like, who really cares about my story? You know, is it just me that really cares? Because I lived it and I'm biased, and you know, it's my story to tell. So I just love it so much. But you know, you got to get past all those doubts in your head. You got to just keep going. And sorry, there's this, again, beautiful lighting, but yeah, you just got to keep going, because just see it through. You know, along the way, you're gonna have a lot of doubt in anything that you do, but you got to see it through, and then reflect on it afterwards. And so that's what I did. You know, I wasn't trying to write a book that changed the world. I was just trying to tell my story, and if it inspired one other person reading it to want to go after something that they, you know, didn't have the courage to go after, then that's, you know, that's a win for me already, you know. But more importantly, I wrote that book to be able to give my grandchild one day, like, here, this is what you know, this is your grandfather wrote that. That's it. And now you have it in writing. You know, you're not gonna log in on Instagram and see his life, because who knows, maybe tomorrow everything gets, you know, plugged out, and then, you know, all that effort that I put in writing the captions and putting up the picture and documenting my life on that platform for the last, you know, let's say 10 years, it's all gone, you know. And I wanted to have something in writing that can live on for a long time, and then also that I could have to reflect back on and be like, oh my, look at what you said. I mean, that was so crazy that you said that. You know, and potentially regret some of the things I said. But I, you know, I think we're always evolving, and to look back at your younger self and be like, wow, you really went for it. You really did that. I mean, that is the greatest gift you could give to your older self. You know, Alison, you going for this project, you pursuing this podcast, you pursuing these ventures for yourself at this young age, you're going to be so happy you did that, regardless of what happens to it, you know, later on in your life, I promise. And the older you'll get, the more rewarding it will become to look back and say, hey, man, first of all, I can't believe you did that. What a young little gangster you were. And secondly, you know, the position that you will put yourself into, ultimately, you will reflect back on and be like, I would have never been here if it wasn't for this 13-year-old me that pushed herself to do that. And so I try to do that. One of the things I motivate myself with is like, am I going to look back at this and be proud of myself, or am I going to look back in this and regret that I never pushed it harder or gave it more, and that's my biggest fear, is not losing. It's being regretful for a missed opportunity.
And that leads me right into our next question. What would you say to the younger you growing up in Odessa, Ukraine, as a young boy who had many dreams?
What would I say to younger me? What would I say? I would say just keep doing your thing. Like there's nothing that, I wish I practiced violin more, I wish but I genuinely look back and there's nothing that I wish I changed. I as a kid, I got into a lot of trouble. I fell a lot. I bruised my face. I have like scars all over my face and head, and, and I love every stitch of them, because they all have stories. And if I didn't make those mistakes, if I didn't put myself out there, I would have never had the stories to tell. As long as your heart is in a good place, and my heart was in a great place from, I remember, from very young age. I didn't know everything. I didn't, I didn't always make the right choices, but I always had a good heart, and I never wanted to hurt people, and I always loved people. I loved the world around me, and I always carried myself with quite a bit of gratitude for whatever reason. Being a younger sibling, being a child to a beautiful home, not materialistically, but of love. I just had that sparkle in my eye, and I never let the world beat that sparkle out of me. Sparkle and spark out of me. And so, I think that really served me well. So my advice to a younger me would just be like, don't let the world take away your, don't let the world take away that charm, that joy, because a lot of times it can.
Going back to what you said earlier about the scars, I 100% agree, because every scar tells a different story, and it reminds you of how strong you are and everything you've been through. And the world really is a tough place sometimes, but it can take away your light. So you have to really take away its power and say, you can't take away my light.
Yes. That's the hardest thing. That I think that is harder now than it was when I was growing up. And that's huge. That light is, as much as I'm trying to duck the light here, it keeps coming back. But it's that is crucial to your success, your joy, your love, your friendships, your everything that you do, and you need friends in your life that when you're taking that selfie, they'll whip out their phone without you asking and turn on their light for you, because that's, you honestly, you just can't, you can do a lot of it by yourself, but it's more fun to do it with the people that you love.
Yep. Val, this was an amazing experience. You have been a huge inspiration of mine, and you have impacted my dance journey. So to have the honor to speak with you was just amazing. Thank you so much for joining me on the Inspiration Show. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And anytime you want to have me, I'll always be there for you.
I love that. Thank you so much for being so
Take care. Good luck.